Alright, hey everybody, welcome back. This is another Fantasy Age tutorial, and in this particular tutorial we're going to be looking at the ability scores in Fantasy Age, all 9 of them, be going into depth what each one does for your character, and we're also going to be talking about how to improve those ability scores, also how to decipher the difference between an ability check and ability check with a focus added on top of it, and then we're going to kind of mention all of the different focuses, which there are a ton in Fantasy Age, by the way. And we're going to basically talk about everything about the ability scores, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to notice is that there are 9 abilities in Fantasy Age. 9. And I actually was thinking when I first started looking at, not only Fantasy Age, but Dragon Age about 3 years ago, I was thinking, man, that's a lot of stats. But after that's a lot of abilities. But after playing the game, getting to learn the mechanics, I really like that because it basically the way the Fantasy Age is set up is every class is not, powered by one stat. And give an example, dexterity. Dexterity is so powerful in so many games, and it affects so many things for a character, sometimes it gets out of control. But in Fantasy Age, dexterity is just dexterity and it affects a couple small things. It doesn't affect everything. And that's what I really enjoy about the 9 ability scores in this game. You're going to get plenty of ways to, increase them as you level from level 1 to 20. You're going to, every class gets primary abilities, which are 4 for every class, and every class gets the others, which are secondary abilities. And, you can improve these abilities. But first off, let's take a look at all 9 abilities and what each ability does for your character. Now, in the basic rule book, it basically right here you're going to see that accuracy represents your character's physical precision and skill with finesse and ranged weapons, such as bows and rapiers. That's good. But accuracy also affects more things than just that. Sure, it also goes into adding your bonus to hit for black powder weapons, bows, any kind of brawling weapons, dueling weapons, light blade weapons, and staves. I wish that they would have went a little bit more into depth on what each ability had done, because you have to look these things up in quite a few other areas of the book. So, and that's why I'm going over each one of these to actually tell you what each stat does and what each stat does for your character. So, communication covers your character's social skills, personal interactions, and ability to deal with others. Now, communication is the only ability score that does not affect something on your character sheet. Sure, communication does affect things like the way that you handle animals, the way that you would disguise yourself, maybe the way that you gamble, or your leadership in a party. Sure, it'll affect that, but it won't affect any other mechanics on your character. So communication, that's pretty much the only one that doesn't. Now, constitution is your character's fortitude and resistance to harm. Your constitution also, it increases the amount of hit points you get, and there's also another rule to where if you increase your constitution, you're only going to increase the hit points for that level and forward. So basically, I'll give it to you in a little bit more of a layman's terms. In other games, if you've upgraded one of your ability scores, then you would count all of the other previous levels and take that new con score and add that new con score onto your previous levels. Now, for your hit points in Fantasy Age, it doesn't work like that. If you upgrade your constitution score, you will only upgrade your hit points from that level and forward. This was not really explained in the basic rulebook, but I did tweet to Green Ronin, and I got a confirmation saying that no, you only upgrade your hit points from that level forward. Piece of cake. So that's Constitution. Now, Dexterity, this encompasses your character's agility, hand-eye coordination, and quickness. In a lot of other games, Dexterity pretty much does everything for a character. But it does not do that in Fantasy Age. Your Dexterity is also going to affect just your speed score and your defense. Every race is going to have a base speed and then plus your dex, and then you're going to take any kind of like armor negative modifiers that you have, armor penalties, you'll deduct that. And it's also going to affect your defense. Piece of cake. Fighting, this is your skill at combat with heavier weapons such as axes and spears. Now, it mentions axes and spears, but it means so much more. This basically means that these are all of the strength-based weapons that you're going to be using. Now, your strength, which we'll get into in just a second, your fighting is basically your plus to hit on axes, bludgeoning weapons, heavy blades like long swords and two-handed swords, lances, pole arms, and spears. It only affects your 2-hit for those weapons, much like accuracy only affects the 2-hit for, black powder weapons, bows, brawling, dueling weapons, light blades like short swords, and then staves. So fighting and accuracy, totally two different things. They encompass two different types of weaponry. I like that. So intelligence. Intelligence is a measure of your character's smarts, knowledge, and education. Intelligence also is very important. Of course, it's important for mages, but your intelligence has everything to do with your success roll for the target number of the spell you're casting. So mages, intelligence, so important. You want to get that as high as you can. It doesn't mention this, but you have to worry about intelligence. It is a primary ability score for you, and whenever you cast a spell, every spell has a target number that you have to do a success roll to see if your spell is successful or not. So if you have a low intelligence, you're going to be failing a lot more spells. And when you fail your spells in Fantasy Age, you still spend the mana if you're successful or if you're not successful. So as a mage, worry about intelligence. It has to do with your intelligence success roll, depending on whatever spell versus that target number. All right, now perception. Perception is a weird stat in Fantasy Age. Now, perception covers all of the senses and the ability to interpret sensory data or data. So perception also deals with your damage bonus for any kind of missiles like bows or black powder weapons. Now remember, accuracy deals with your to hit with those same weapons. Now perception, that deals with your damage. So it's not like, going to speak out of character here and speak about another game. It's not like like a Dungeons and Dragons game where dexterity is everything. Dexterity is based on your stealth as a rogue, your lock picking, your to hit with finesse weapons, your damage for finesse weapons, your ranged weapons, your damage for your ranged weapons. No, it doesn't work like that because of the 9 stats. And like I said, perception, it deals with just damage, your damage bonus for missile type weapons like bows and black powder weapons. Really cool. Now strength. Strength knows, everybody knows that strength is your character's physical prowess. We get that. Now strength usually in other games would measure your to hit with a weapon for certain types of weapons, but not in Fantasy Age. The strength only affects your damage. It only affects your damage for the fighting-based weapons. Now remember, when I mentioned fighting a couple abilities ago, fighting is your to hit for axes, bludgeon weapons, heavy blades, lances, polearms, and spears. The strength or the damage is based off of your strength score. So your to hit with your longsword is based off of fighting, and your damage bonus is based off of your strength bonus. 2 separate stats, just like using missile weapons. Accuracy, and perception. Same thing. Two different abilities. Now, willpower. Willpower is also very important for mages. And this is an ability that encompasses your mental toughness, discipline, and your confidence. And your willpower is what determines what your spell power is. Now, as a mage, you're going to get spell power. Once you've performed a successful target number roll based off of your intelligence, now some spells are going to have a test against it. We'll say an example of that is Flame Blast. Flame Blast is now the target that you're casting. Now that we know that your cast was successful, you deduct your mana. Now the Flame Blast goes off towards the target. The target now has to make a dexterity acrobatics roll against your spell power. It's basically like a target number you're setting for the enemy to roll against. Sort of like a saving throw for the monster. Even though it's not called a saving throw, it's called a contest roll in Fantasy Age. So the higher your willpower for a mage, the better your spell power target number is going to be, and the harder it's going to be for other monsters, other NPCs, to resist your spells. Now, not all spells in Fantasy Age are going to have a target number. Well, they're going to have target numbers, excuse me. They're not going to have a spell power DC number. So there won't be a contest on things like buff spells for your party or heals from the healing arcana. So willpower, very important also, affects your spell power target number. So now we've gone over all 9 of the abilities. All right, we've gone over all 9 abilities. Now, you can improve your abilities. There's 20 levels in Fantasy Age. 20 levels. And you can improve these abilities, not only from what you start with, if you use the point buy system, if you roll your abilities, don't forget, you're going to also get an ability or possibly multiple ability scores from your race. So your race, whenever you choose your race, that's going to give you more bonuses to your abilities. Next, as you level up, on the even numbered levels that you level, such as 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, on those even levels, you're going to take one of your primary 4 ability scores and you're going to get to raise those up. You're going to get to raise one up. Now, you can raise each one up for a 1-to-1 ratio up to level 5, or up to a 5 ability. And then after 5, you're going to need to start spending multiple ability ups to raise it up past 5 to say 6, 7, or 8. Or 9, you're even going to have to spend more. So you can improve your abilities. Even levels, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, you do your primary abilities. Now, for your odd levels, like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19, now you can upgrade your secondary abilities. And the same thing, you can take those 1 for 1 with an even point buy of 1-to-1, and then if you want to go over 5, it's going to cost you more points. So that's how you improve your abilities. And the last way that you can improve your abilities are by magic items. Now, I want to talk about the number system in Fantasy Age. It's really low. Now, I don't expect to see a lot of swords with +2 strength or plus to fighting, or you'll get maybe +1 to fighting and +1 to damage, but don't expect to see weapons with plus to communication, plus to con, plus dexterity, because of the numbers are so low in the game already. I think that if they're inflated too much, it'll kind of break the mechanic system. So expect to see more ability focuses or talents on magic items rather than pure stat spells. Well, I'm sorry, pure ability numbers. So now that we've talked about abilities, improving your abilities, you're going to get 20 ability improvements. You can literally raise your stats by 20 points for the life of your character. And we're going to distinct now what an ability focus is, the difference between an ability focus is and an ability. Now, this is where a lot of people have been confused about what an ability focus is. Now, ability focus is sort of like a bonus in a concentrated area within your ability score. Now, I'm going to use dexterity because it's the easiest example that I could use. Okay. Now, say that we are going to play a rogue. All right. Now, our rogue, we're really crafty with we're really shifty with our feet, and we'll say that we're going to be jumping rooftops. Okay. We want to be jumping rooftops because we're trying to find a certain noble's house that has a gem that we have to steal the gem for, some kind of quest, or maybe for a girl that we love or something like that. So if you're playing a rogue, or if you're playing a mage, or if you're playing a warrior, sure, everybody can jump across roofs, and that's going to be based off of your dexterity. So when you make that jump roll from one rooftop for another, it'll be a 3d6, because all ability tests in this game are 3d6 plus your ability. So we'll say that we have a 5 dexterity. So we'll roll a 3d6 plus 5 for our check to jump over the roof. Now, this is where the dexterity focus, or the ability focus, comes into play. Not only am I getting my dex bonus, but I'm going to get a dex bonus because you'll see this first one up here in the top right-hand corner of your screen. This is acrobatics. This is where executing gymnastic, balancing, and tumbling maneuvers are going to give you a bonus to your check. So not only, now that we are focused in acrobatics within dexterity, we're going to add we're going to do our roll as a 3d6 plus our 5 dexterity, plus the focus is worth 2 points. So we'll be 3d6 plus 5 dex plus 2 acrobatics. That's how it works. So basically, everything that you see here, all of these focuses in dexterity, are going to give you a bonus for basically calligraphy. Anytime you're writing with artful penmanship, you're going to get that bonus to calligraphy. Anytime you're crafting, making items with manual skills like woodworking, sculpting, leatherworking, glassblowing, anything that requires a lot of movement with your hands, if you have that focus, you're going to get to add that on to your dexterity. Legerdemain, that's basically, pickpocketing and whatnot. So you'll get a bonus. You'll get a bonus for stealth, for writing, for traps, detecting and disarming the traps. So as you can see, abilities are important. Once you figure out what ability this check is going to have to entail. So we'll say that a cave-in happened within the cave. There was an earthquake. A boule came up, or actually burrowed into the ground. The cave, had a rough experience with that, and it had a cave-in. And now one of your party members is trapped under a large rock. You're going to use a strength check, obviously. But see, in strength, you can have, over here, there is a certain might that you can have, so strength might, where this is where you perform raw feats of power, such as lifting or holding up heavy objects. So not only are you going to do your check as 3d6 plus strength, and we'll say that our strength is a 5 for that also. Now that we have a special focus of might, anytime that we lift up heavy objects, or want to hold something up, we do strength plus might, and might is plus 2. So can you take an ability focus over plus 2? And the answer is yes. Once you hit level 11 on your character, you can, depending on if your ability focus is even or odd level, primary or secondary, you can raise that up to a plus 3. So if you want to take that acrobatics up, we'll say that it's a primary statistic for you, a primary ability, then yes, you'll have to wait till level 12, because that'll be the first time over level 11. And once you're level 12, your focus ability that you get for your primary ability, you can raise acrobatics from a plus 2 to plus 3. So now that check will be 3d6 plus 5 plus 3 instead of 3d6 plus 5 plus 2. Really easy. Really easy. The system, once you see it and see how it works, it it's easy. Now that we've talked about, you know, improving your focuses and all that stuff, we're going to go ahead and talk about, you know, focuses. Expect to see more focuses on magic items in Fantasy Age. I would expect to see them there. And you're also going to get more focuses depending on, you know, on your race that you choose, and also what social status or background that you have. So there's other ways that you can get more focuses. Now for all of the accuracy focuses, you're going to notice that, remember, accuracy is plus to hit for your ranged weapons. Now, if you take, you know, accuracy focuses for black powder or bows or brawling or dueling or grenades or light blades or staves or even arcane blast for that matter, this focus is going to give you an additional +2 to hit. So not only if you're using a bow, a long bow, you're going to do 3d6 plus your accuracy. We'll say accuracy is a 5. We'll say all of our abilities are 5 just for the tutorial's sake. Now, if we're going to roll a to-hit roll with our bow, it's going to be 3d6 plus 5 for our accuracy. But wait, now remember we are now focused in bows, so that's going to give us 3d6 plus 5 now +2. So don't forget, everybody, to add in your focuses. It's really important, and don't sell yourself short. Now, communication. Remember, communication, this is the only ability that doesn't affect anything else mechanically on your character sheet. And the focuses for communication are animal handling, bargaining, deception, disguise, etiquette, gambling, investigation, leadership, performance, persuasion, and yes, ladies out there and gentlemen, seduction. Now, that you'll get a +2 to any of those, +3 if you're past level 11. Constitution, there's really not a lot of Constitution focuses, but you'll be able to be focused in drinking, rowing, running, stamina, and swimming. I like it. Now, dexterity, focuses are acrobatics, calligraphy, crafting, initiative. Initiative, so yes, you can get an initiative bonus. Initiative is based off of 3d6 plus your dex. But if you have the initiative focus, you get another +2. Ledger domain, we already talked about, you know, it's sleight of hand, basically, picking pockets. Lock picking, riding, stealth, and traps. For fighting, fighting is much like accuracy. But remember, fighting is based off of our to-hit with more strength or heavier based weapons. So if you have the focuses in axes, bludgeoning weapons, heavy blades, lances, polearms, or spears, you're going to get a +2 additional to hit. Intelligence has the most amount of focuses. And you can get arcane lore, brewing, cartography, cryptography, cultural lore, engineering, evaluation, healing, heraldry, historical lore, military lore, musical lore, natural lore, navigation, research, religious lore, writing, and also, most importantly, for casters, you're going to get your arcana focuses also. Now remember, what I mentioned earlier in this workshop, I mentioned basically flame blast. Now, you're going to do a successful target roll. All right, now your intelligence focus on whatever field of magic that you're taking, it's in the fire arcana line. Flame blast is. Now, for one of your primary as a mage, you'll take fire arcana or arcana fire. Now, when you do that, it's going to affect two things. Not only is it going to affect your intelligence-based target number success roll, it's also going to add a +2 to your willpower, which your willpower affects your spell power. So your spell arcanas, very important. Whatever spell line that you take, make sure you take that arcana and get it to +3. Much like with the fighters and the rogues that are going to be fighting with ranged weapons or melee weapons, make sure you take the focus of the weapon groups you think you're going to be fighting with and get them to +3. Very important. Now, perception, Remember, perception deals with your damage on missile weapons. And the perception focuses are empathy, hearing, searching, seeing, smelling, that's right, smelling, tasting, touching, and tracking. So all of the senses there. Strength focuses are climbing, driving, intimidation, jumping, might, and smithing. And the last but not least, the willpower focuses. Remember, willpower deals with your spell power DC, and your strength is all about your damage for the strength-based weapons like axes, bludgeons, heavies, lances, polearms, and spears. And then the willpower focuses courage, faith, morale, and self-discipline. So it's a pretty complex system. It's not really complex. There's just a lot to it, because there are a lot of ability focuses. I haven't counted these, but I would have to say there's probably close to a good 80 to 100 focuses. And that's a lot of variety for your character, and I like that. I not only like that everybody can do a check, everybody can do that, that acrobatics check jumping across the roof, but I really like how you focused yourself in the arts of acrobatics for dexterity, or lifting, or might, for strength, or your focuses for accuracy for your weapons like bows and black powder weapons, or laser rifles if you're going to be playing Ashes of Volcana, Titan's Grave. So it gives you a very, very robust way to customize your character. So there you go. That's everything you need to know about abilities. Improving your abilities, taking focuses, improving your focuses, and to distinguish between a ability roll and an ability focus roll. So guys, feel free to leave a comment down below. Also, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And until next time, I will see you later.